Hi, folks. We're back. I'm Abel, and this is Allison, and we're here with Janae as well. So what are we cooking now?
Today we're going to cook a dairy-free clam chowder. Now, I'm from Washington, and so I was just in Seattle not too long ago, and on the waterfront they have world-renowned clam chowder.
Yeah.
And clam chowder is normally made out of cream and butter and clams and lots of salt, and it's certainly delicious, but it's definitely not a health food, right?
And flour a lot. That's
A lot of flour, yep, a lot of flour. So, and a lot of people are sensitive to dairy, me being one of them. And so I'm always trying to find things that give me the experience of dairy, that nice rich creaminess and the flavor without actually having dairy in here. So we're going to transform some vegetables to turn them into an amazing clam chowder that gives you the sensation and the experience of having that amazing dairy-based clam chowder on the coast, but it's going to be completely healthy for you, and it's going to help you prevent and reverse chronic illness.
Yeah, sneaking some extra veggies in there instead of the dairy once again.
Exactly.
Which is a great option. Anytime you can get more veggies in, you're winning.
I'm in the same boat as you. I can't handle dairy. This guy, on the other hand, he's like, cottage cheese, not a problem. Ice cream, no issue. I'm like,
I love dairy. I've always been a dairy fiend, and it works. But
Jealous.
it's worth saying that the dairy that I do eat is the highest quality I can find for the most part. Every once in a while, I'll make an exception and get like a 2% organic Greek yogurt or something like that if I'm really in a pinch or traveling or whatever. But aside from that, there are a few brands that I know, like, and trust, and it's always as close to raw as possible and very, very high quality from grass-fed instead of corn-fed industrial cattle. So I should just say that I'm not just like eating dairy from any source. It's like when I eat dairy, I treat it as a treat. You know, it's like, and you can see that when it's just like my special little moment that I have with my yogurt every day.
Cottage cheese sundae.
Yeah, anyway. I made cottage cheese sundaes. Maybe we can do that later.
So we'll know this is a win if the dairy lover can think this is actually made out of dairy. Now
the
the
dairy
real trick
lover from New England.
That's right. So
we used to go to Chowder Fest every year.
Okay, the real trick is getting you to buy that this is actually clam chowder. Okay,
right.
So let's see. You think I can do
know you're
it?
up for it.
Okay, I'm up for it. All right. So what we're gonna start out with is a bunch of cruciferous vegetables. Now, cruciferous vegetables are some of the most healthy vegetables you can eat because they're full of fiber, they're full of antioxidants, and they have lots of anti-cancer properties, anti-inflammatory properties, and they help you to cleanse your liver, which your liver is what helps to get all the toxins that we absorb into our bodies every day, helps you to get it out. So these help us to avoid diseases like heart disease and diabetes, and it also helps us to avoid cancer. So not only is it going to be delicious, but it's really healthy for us. So we've got our cauliflower, and the magic of TV is making it so we're going to just do this in an instant. But what you do is you chop up a head of cauliflower, throw it in a pan, and you just steam it until it's fork tender, meaning it's still got a little bit of crunch to it, but it's kind of soft around the edges.
Put like an inch of water, right? And just
inch of water down in the bottom and put the lid on and steam it. Now, if you overcook cauliflower, all of the nutrition, so your antioxidants, your vitamin A, C, and E, they are heat sensitive. So if you overcook it, you're going to kill all the heat, all the healthy properties in this. So you just want to cook it enough to get it a little bit soft, but not overcook it.
Okay.
Then you're going to take sweet potatoes, which are a safe starch, and
this is actually a white sweet potato. They're usually you're used to like the
I call those yams. I call the orange ones yams and the white ones sweet potatoes, but they're sort of interchangeable. So you take the white sweet potato and you just dice it up, and we're going to steam that as well. And the sweet potatoes and tubers, any plant that is grown under the ground is very high in your minerals. So your magnesium, your calcium, your phosphorus, all those, and your potassium. So you're going to get all those minerals, those grounding minerals in any food that you are going to grow under the ground. So we're just going to throw the sweet potatoes in a pot with some celery. All right. Celery is great for digestion. It also helps to lower your blood pressure. And we're going to throw in a chopped sweet onion. And we've talked about onions in other shows, but they are one of the most amazing foods ever. They're antibacterial, antiviral. They've got lots of prebiotic fiber in there, so it helps you develop a good, healthy gut flora. So we're just going to throw all that into a pot, and then we're going to take a can of clams. You can certainly use fresh clams if you want, but I live in Utah, so we don't no fresh clams there.
I don't think I'd trust those.
I don't think I would either. So.
Yeah, we're in Texas. There's not much ocean nearby.
So, can of clams, and we're just going to take the juice from the clams and throw that over our vegetables, and we're going to use the clam juice to steam the vegetables. So we're going to put a lid on top of that. We got 2 pots steaming at the same time.
All right.
Okay? And after these are done, magic of TV, right? So after we're done steaming these, and again, with these vegetables, you want to get them until they're just barely tender, but not soft and not mushy. I think the reason a lot of people don't like vegetables is because they grew up eating overcooked, boiled, soggy,
from the cafeteria
tasteless vegetables, right? And so
Right.
we don't want to do that. We want to preserve all these amazing nutrients, preserve the flavor, and but also get it so it's palatable. It needs to be soft enough to be palatable.
Cook it low and slow. And so there's a shorthand rule that says stay away from white stuff. Stay away specifically from white carbohydrates, which technically this would be.
Right.
But this has a heck of a lot more nutrients and a lot lower starch than a lot of the other vegetables that usually that rule would apply to, right? Like
Exactly.
to get people to stop eating the bagel. So it's important to notice that exception that yes, this is a white thing, but actually it is full of nutrients as long as you're cooking it gently.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the white carbohydrate rule, when you're getting it from vegetables, it's a lot different than when you're getting it from a refined grain. And I think that's a big part of the white rule or the beige rule is staying away from the refined grains. And this soup was engineered specifically so it would be white so you could pull it off and make it look like it's made from dairy, right? And so we specifically use the white vegetables, but definitely let's stay away from the flours and the refined grains. Okay, so after you steam these vegetables, the cauliflower, then the next thing, all we're going to have to do is blend it up. This is a blender soup. Once these are done steaming, while the vegetables are hot, you throw it into the high-speed blender, and then you don't even have to recook the soup. It's hot, and we're going to just serve it straight after we've blended it.
Awesome.
Okay, so we're going to take, after you've finished steaming these, we're just going to take the celery out because we don't want to blend the celery in there. We want that to stay whole. Oops.
I want some celery chunks in
Yeah,
there.
we want celery chunks, and the same with the carrots. You don't want to blend the carrots in there because you want the carrot chunks. And we're also going to reserve a third of the sweet potatoes. So we're going to blend a lot of these sweet potatoes in, but we're also going to reserve some. Now, the texture we want to have with this is nice and creamy. So think about when you have clam chowder, you've got your chunks of potatoes, right? But then you also have this creamy soup. And so the potatoes, the sweet potatoes, actually, they bring a sweetness to it, so it makes you think you've got that lactose sort of flavor in your mouth. And they also bring a creaminess to the soup. So the cauliflower and the potatoes and onion are all going to be blended up to make the base of the soup.
Woo!
Look at that aim.
I was gonna do it.
That's
by
some
spoonfuls,
amazing game.
but I play video games.
the Tetris
Punch
of clam chowder,
Yeah.
right?
The video game star shows herself, finally.
Okay, now for the cauliflower. Let's see. And you might have to do this in a couple different batches if it doesn't fit in your blender, so we will see how much fits in.
Just gonna grab it. Wow, so sorry, this is the high-powered blender newbie in me, but we can just put all of this in there at one
Throw
time
it in.
and it'll
A normal blender would explode with this
Yeah.
little experiment,
get
but
very angry.
you're gonna be pretty impressed how this works out.
I'm used to shoving knives in and just like mashing my hands
Okay.
down, almost losing fingers.
Well, let's not do that.
Get
We
a
don't
good
want any
blender,
blood.
folks.
Oh, are we putting cashews in?
So go ahead and blend that up until it's nice and smooth, and then we'll put the other stuff in.
Dun, dun, dun.
Hold your hand on the lid, it might go off. Use that to shove it in. Okay, once you blend it up, you just need to blend it up long enough until it's nice and creamy, like clam chowder. And if you need to add a little bit of water to make the consistency right or to help blend, go ahead and do that. Now, we're running out of room in the blender, so we're going to pour a little bit of this off into the pan. And so what we've got here is your vegetable-based cream. Now, we may do this later, but you can also use this like as Alfredo sauce or as a cream soup base for any kind of soups.
That's great.
You can use this as a topping for au gratin potatoes. So this is a really versatile cream sauce. And so what we're going to flavor it up with is some garlic. And the more you like garlic, the more you can put in there. A little bit of nutritional yeast. Now what nutritional yeast does is it gives it kind of a little bit of a cheesy flavor without actually putting cheese in it.
Can we quickly cover the nutritional benefits of nutritional yeast?
Sure. Basically, it's just a lot of B vitamins.
Yeah.
And so that's basically it, is the B vitamins with the nutritional yeast.
Yeah, and I love adding a little bit of tang to smoothies, and that's a perfect way to do it.
And it's just great whenever you're making cheese-flavored something without the cheese. That's the way to go.
My mom puts it all over popcorn. That's her little treat.
That's nice.
So
a little bit
cute.
of salt and popcorn.
Yeah.
That's great.
Oh, it's delicious.
So delicious. And then we're going to use some cashews to thicken it up. Right now, because most of what's in here is fiber, it's going to, it looks creamy, but it's going to, the mouthfeel of it is going to be kind of fibrous.
Right.
So in order to get it really creamy, so it's going to convince you that it's actually made of cream, we're going to use some cashews to cream it up. Okay? So you can put in, I usually start with about a half a cup, and then taste it and just see how the mouth feels working for you. And the more cashews you put in there, the more creamy it's going to be.
Brilliant.
We're also going to have to
Those
put
are just
in
raw cashews.
raw cashews, yep. And we're going to have to put in a little bit more water just to make it so it blends properly. And then for the flavor, we're going to use some vegetable seasoning. Now this tastes like chicken broth, but it's actually just made with herbs and some nutritional yeast. I have searched high and low for a broth powder or a bouillon cube that didn't have hydrogenated oil and high fructose corn syrup and all sorts of other and MSG and other garbage in there. This is the only brand I've found that is totally clean and it tastes delicious. So,
Yeah, I
Very
just
cool.
went. I was like picking up stuff for this recipe, and I went to the store and I was getting in bulk some broth powder. I'd never heard of broth powder before. I've heard of bouillon cubes, and I'm like scooping it into the thing, and it's a natural grocery store, so I just figured, all their spices are organic. I just figured it was good stuff. As I'm scooping it in, this little old lady next to me, she's like, "That stuff's garbage. I wouldn't eat that. Look at the ingredients." And I was like, "Oh," I turned it around. First ingredient is corn syrup solids.
Oh.
And I was like, "Thank you. I won't get it." Adorable.
So if you can't find this in your regular grocery store, I just order it online and you can get it on Amazon or
Yeah.
Getting easier.
Yeah, it's totally getting easier
So
to find.
what is
stuff.
this brand?
This is called Satanbucker.
Satan.
I don't know if
Bucker.
you can zoom in on the brand. Yes.
It's not evil. So yeah, it's nutritional yeast and just
herbs, yeah.
spices.
SEITENBACHER.
Badass.
All right.
Cool.
So we're just going to let's start out with like 3 heaping tablespoons of this.
Okay.
And then we can taste it a little bit later to see how it's going, okay? Let's see. Now, this isn't completely dairy-free because we're going to add some butter, so this is optional. If you want to add a little bit of butter flavor to it, I think it really enhances the flavor without damaging you, because butter it doesn't have the lactose and the casein and the things that people are really sensitive to with dairy. So this is optional, but I think it definitely adds a little buttery taste and creamy texture that makes it more convincing that we're actually eating cream.
Yeah, and if you want to leave the milk solids out, you can go one step farther and go for ghee or clarified butter and add that to it. But really, any little bit of fat will add that little flair to it. So you can get creative with that too. Lard, if you can't do dairy, you could do lard or tallow or even duck fat and see how it comes out. Maybe some will be better than others, but that's part of the fun.
Absolutely. And when you add fat to vegetable recipes, there's lots of fat soluble vitamins that your body cannot even use if there's not enough fat in there. So the cashews and the butter or whatever healthy fat you're using, that will help it so you can absorb more of the nutrition from this vegetable dish.
Yeah, and just make sure if you're using butter to use it from grass-fed cows, because if it's fed corn or grains, then it's unhealthy and it's stored. Well, the milk isn't going to be awesome, but even for like tallow or lard, make sure it's from a healthy animal, because they store all their toxins in their fat, and then you're eating the fat, you're just eating all their toxins.
That's right. And the natural stuff really does taste better. A lot of times they'll just pull, because the flavor is bad in industrial fats and industrial foods, they'll try to like take all the flavor out of it because there's nothing really good there.
Yeah.
And then they'll add in artificial flavors to try to make it taste more like that original thing that it should have tasted like at the beginning. So if you just stick with the natural one, then not only are you not getting all of that garbage, but you're also getting nutrition out of it. So it's really good for you if you stick with the good stuff.
Okay.
Absolutely. All right.
Blend this?
That's it, and blend away. Make sure you put a little bit on that so it doesn't explode. All right. Here's start with it. There we go. Go ahead.
Can I just point something out there?
Yes.
You did something really interesting that a lot of new cooks might not. And that was mostly you saw a little drop came off, you tasted it, and then you adjusted by putting a few more scoops in there.
Absolutely.
So can you kind of explain what the art of that is and why people should feel comfortable doing
Absolutely. And all of the recipes I do, they all need some adjusting because everybody's taste is different. Some people like things saltier, some people like things sweeter, some like more garlicky flavor. So basically the three flavors you really want to look out for is your salt, your sweet, and your bitterness, and you kind of want to balance for those. So when I was tasting that, first of all, I was tasting to see how the texture was. If you don't blend this long enough, it's going to be a little bit gritty. So I was trying to see if it's creamy enough, and if it's not, you can add more fat, and that will make it creamier, and you can blend it more. The salt content, when I tasted it, I thought, okay, it's not quite salty enough, and it needs a tiny bit more of this broth flavor. So I put the more broth powder in to make it saltier and to bring out the broth or the chicken sort of flavor a little bit more. And then if you have some sort of spice in there like garlic or hot pepper, you're also tasting to adjust for the spiciness of it.
Right.
And I was also tasting for the sweetness. So when you're eating milk, there's a lot of lactose in there, which gives your tongue a very sweet sensation. And so I was tasting to see if it was sweet enough.
Right.
And in this recipe, you would add more sweet potato, probably to make it a little bit more sweet.
That's awesome. And yeah, when you learn the art of that, then pretty much everything you make comes out better because there's so much variability when you're cooking with real food, and that's a good thing. So even the sweet potatoes that you're using, depending on what season it is, what variety you're using, you might have to use a different ratio of sweet potato. So that's why it's important to, throughout the process, be able to trust yourself when you test it, and like that typical cliche of the Italian chef making tomato sauce, just scooping it into his mouth the whole time. That's kind of what you want to do while you're cooking, and that's where you'll really get better too. That's where you can kind of guarantee, as long as you keep starting small and you're not overdoing it. You're not like you didn't put in 5 scoops, you put in 2.
And keep tasting, and you can always add more, but it's hard to take it out.
Exactly. Yeah.
And just pretend it's a game. I do this with my daughter. She's 12 now, and I make a recipe and I have her taste it, and I say, okay, what does it need? And she'll tell me sugar, salt, fat, spice, and she'll tell me like how the balance is. And everyone's opinion is going to be different, but just playing that game with yourself, like tasting it when you go to a restaurant or when you eat food, play that game with yourself. Like, if this was going to be the perfect recipe, how would it change? And go with the spice, the salt, the fat, and the sweet.
She's going to be a masterful chef when she gets older.
She is, yes.
That's amazing.
That's so cute. I love it.
All right.
And also, don't get intimidated. Like, at the beginning, if you're like, you think it needs more salt and you put too much in and you're like, I suck at this. That's gonna happen at the beginning regardless. Like, just be comfortable with experimenting until, because it takes like fumbling and failing to some degree until you're like awesome at it.
It does.
Yeah, and you can always,
little by little is good.
Even if you're trying to save a train wreck, you could still, put a little bit more sweet potato in there or something like that. If you're trying to, if you overspiced it in whatever way, that Seinfeld episode comes to my mind. You remember that one? So if you overspice it, you can still throw some extra starch in there, some extra veggies in. Hopefully try to dull it out. So it's not a lost cause, even if you do kind of screw it up.
Yeah, and always just add bacon at the end. And you're like,
That's right.
Yeah, there you go.
Sucks everything.
Exactly. All right, so we're just gonna throw this in the pot. We tasted it. It tastes great. And do you see how creamy that is?
Yeah.
Wow.
Now it's the flavor
Look at that.
of clam chowder. It kind of looks like it. It's probably a little more yellow than your typical clam chowder, but it's still really beautiful, very creamy, very flavorful. And then we're just gonna throw in the vegetables that we want to add some texture. So we're gonna add in all the sweet potatoes. We're gonna add in the steamed carrots. We're gonna add in the steamed celery.
Wow.
And the clams. Now clams, if you cook them, the longer you cook them, the more chewy and rubbery they get. So you just want to put in the clams right at the last minute to warm them, but not overcook them so they become rubbery.
Like bullets.
Exactly. And if you've taken the vegetables straight out of the pot, throw them in the blender and throw them back in the pot, they should still be steaming hot. But if they're not, throw in the pot, warm it back up, and then put the clams in. So we've got clams, and then of course the almighty bacon.
Saves anything.
And again, if you just want to keep, this is totally a flexible recipe. So if you want to keep it vegetarian, this is how I make my cream of broccoli soup. So you leave out the bacon and the clams, throw in some steamed broccoli, and you've got an amazing cream of broccoli soup. So let's give this baby a stir.
Is there any meat-free replacement that's not garbage that would act like bacon in this sort of recipe?
No.
No.
I'll be honest with you. I've tried it all. And I've tried bacon substitutes galore, and there's nothing that you can replace bacon and cheese with. I'm sorry. You can try, but it just doesn't work. So, either use bacon or don't, whatever you prefer. Now this soup, if you let it sit in the fridge overnight, the bacon and the clam flavor infuses into all the vegetables. Like right now, you're going to get very separate flavors. So you're going to taste the vegetables, you're going to taste the clams, you're going to taste the bacon, but they haven't melded together yet. So if you make it a day ahead, refrigerate it, and then warm it up later, it's going to be a better experience the next day, but don't worry, it's going to be amazing right now.
Great.
So you just warm this up, and remember, you've got all those vegetables with the heat-sensitive antioxidants in there, so you don't want to boil this or overcook it. Just warm it until it's warm enough, and then you've got your amazing clam chowder. So let's dish this up real quick, and then I'll show you how to garnish it.
Okay.
All right, what do you think so far?
Tell me once it.
If I told you I was going to make clam chowder out of cauliflower before we started this, you would have thought I was mad, right?
This woman is nuts.
So we've got some green onions. We've got a little bit of red pepper for the people that like spice. So red pepper flakes really adds a nice little zing to it. Then salt and pepper to taste. Now, a lot of times it's easy to oversalt things. So I usually undersalt.
Especially if you have bacon in it too. It already has some salt.
I usually undersalt, and then you can always add more salt at the table if you want to. And that's a lot better than oversalting from the very beginning. So we've got it all garnished and ready to go. So Mr. Dairy and Madam, I can't eat dairy, so have a taste and tell me, if you closed your eyes and nobody told you this was dairy free, what would you think?
Okay.
Wow.
It's my fave. I love it.
Oh my god.
Wow.
The bacon in that is incredible.
What do you think? If I didn't tell you there was no dairy in there, it's made out of cauliflower,
I wouldn't believe you.
That would win the New Hampshire Chowder Fest. Right. All with veggies.
So it's a win.
It's a win. I love it. Great job.
Not only is it delicious, but it's amazing for your health. You're getting it's made of cruciferous vegetables, so there's nothing healthier in this world that you can eat. It's low. Usually, when you eat regular clam chowder, you're getting 1,000 calories in a bowl. This is like 200 calories in a bowl, and it's
a lot of fiber.
Tons of fiber. Yep, tons of great fiber. Tons of vegetables. Like I said, you can't get any healthier than this.
Bravo.
Brilliant. Yes, absolutely.
This is the ending equation. Cool. Thank you guys. We'll see you on our next recipe video.
Bye-bye.